Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. We're digital now, but this is what it used to look like when we printed. I'm pulling out some archives here. This is January of 2021. Jason Sweeney, Facilities and Construction for AAA Southern Cal. We have over 10,000 locations in the country, but Jason heads up the West Coast branch. So we really appreciate him. Actually, I think he's been promoted since then with his title. But if you ever get down to SoCal to see it, this is one of the cars that they have. It's like a museum down there. They have all these pictures of old school roadsters and cars and all that stuff. And I remember when I was growing up, you go into the AAA, you get your maps laid out and for your trip, and but it's an awesome place if you ever get down there. But I always like holding the magazine because I don't print it anymore. And we still have a print on demand service. So people that we feature on the cover or have articles in there, they can still order. So we still do high res and lay it out. But I always like to see what I was doing. Oh, wow. I got my hair's not as gray and I'm looking a little younger, but I was down at the Georgia Swarm locker room. I'm a lacrosse guy, and I took my team down there to meet the players. And I went to University of Denver, and there's a couple alumni on the indoor team. They're called the Georgia Swarm, and they play at the Duluth Arena. Anyway, I took my high school team down there to play on the turf, and then go in the locker room and meet some of the guys. But this issue was 140 pages, and some really good stuff. And but it's always nice to see, what was going on, basically, 4.5 years ago. But I don't miss the printer. I don't miss the post office. And it's been an amazing transformation from print face to face to digital. And had just under 49 million people hit the website last year consuming content. And this year I'm on pace to do 70 or 80 million people. So everybody out there on the Wild Wild Web, thank you so much for finding us. I know we're in a niche gig, and I couldn't have done it without you. And you're gold in my eyes. And so I'm sitting out on my patio. I've been building my house for the last 10 months with my wife, who's a interior contractor, color consultant, guru, and we never did a self build, a ground up. So this is my first build, and it's probably the last place I'm going to live before I go into the old folks' home or go to live with my son, if he'll have me. Because I was Sergeant Carter with him when he was growing up. Good cop, bad cop with my wife and I. But anyway, we had to move through the heat, sizzling hot here in Atlanta, and it rained and rained, and it's been a blur for like the last 6 weeks. I had to sell my other house, get that one ready. I was finishing up going through my final inspections and getting everything packed and running my company. And I took kind of a little hiatus, for almost a month of doing podcast. I just didn't have time to get them done. And there's only so much time in a day. But I'm back at it, and really appreciate everybody being patient with me out there. So today, I have Sarah Wicker. She's with an architecture firm from Perkins&Will. Sarah, what city are you out of?
I am in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. There you go. And the reason why I had Sarah on, because listen, you can't do anything without plan, vision, and you need someone to, like this house. My wife's an interior designer, so she had a plan, she had a vision, and then you execute it. You find people to help you build it, and then you look at the fruits of your labor, you look at the project, and then you kind of tweak things. And just like retail, you could be doing a 20-unit renovation or 20 new stores. Every one of them is going to be a little different, and they all have their own little aspects. And construction's in a major boom right now. I mean, it's the most amazing time to be alive as far as I'm concerned. There is so much going on in the world today, and construction is one of those sectors where it's just unbelievable what's going on, especially with AI getting integrated and so forth. And Perkins is, on the leading edge of all of those things. So, Sarah, the way this is going to work, we're going to do it in
Sure.
3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, kids, sports, whatever, and how you ended up at Perkins&Will. And then we'll transition into lessons learned over the last 5 years of the roller coaster that we thought was going to be 3 weeks. Then it's 3 months, and now we're here 5 years later, and we're still talking about it, even though we're out of the tunnel. And then you'll leave your contact info and one positive thought or phrase. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
Well, yes. So I am a principal at Perkins&Will, global architecture and planning firm, but I am not an architect or a planner. Yes, I know. I run the branded environments team and experience design advisory team. But I am from Dallas, Texas. I am a fourth generation Dallas. My actual fun fact, my great grandfather brought the first case of frozen food over to Dallas. Yes, I know. Very amazing. Had the first frozen food business in Dallas. So
Wow.
I grew up in Dallas, but similar to you, David, I'm a sports girl. I played soccer at Oklahoma State University. So I went to Oklahoma State, played soccer in Stillwater, Oklahoma,
Go
but
Cowboys.
I go Cowboys. Yes.
Orange and Cowboys.
Large Cowboys. But immediately after playing soccer in Stillwater, Oklahoma, I left small town Stillwater, Oklahoma, and went right out of school to New York City. I wanted a big city experience, and I worked for a big brand agency right out of school because I've always been really passionate about people and why they do the things that they do. That's really at the center of my whole story. And you'll see that throughout my whole working experience. At the very beginning of my career, it was really, why do people buy the things that they do? So I started out in brand agencies, understanding why do they buy certain kinds of toothpaste or why do they buy certain kinds of medicine? So I started out at a brand agency for the first part of my career, working long hours in focus group rooms, understanding why people bought certain things and creating commercials for people and doing advertising and marketing. And then I shifted over to an architecture firm, starting to learn why do people live in certain residential buildings? Or why do people go to certain shopping centers and helping to work to brand those certain places? So why do people connect to certain places that they go to? So that was a little bit of a shift in my career. And then in 2020, I decided to go back to school and get a full psychology degree. And that's when I really shifted to understand the bigger picture experience of helping people understand why are we connecting or helping architects understand how people connect to places, more of a full picture experience of when people come into spaces, what makes them spend more time there? What makes them really want to come back there? What makes them feel safe there? So the work that my team does at Perkins&Will is about both activating spaces, but also ensuring that the experience that they have there is one that is really successful from both a physical point of view, an emotional point of view, a mental point of view. So we work directly alongside architects, interior designers, urban planners, landscape designers, just to make sure that the human experience is considered alongside the design experience. And you would think, oh, she's not an architect, she's not a designer, but that part of the experience is really interesting and really cool and really works to complement that design part of the process. So I would say my process has been really pivoted along the way. Started out as a journalism major at Oklahoma State and then worked at a brand agency to architecture to psychology to being a principal at an architecture firm.
So my first question is because I love talking to athletes because they understand
Okay.
winning and losing, and you got it. When you go out in the real world, and
Sure.
you went to the Big Apple to start. So I know you've got thick skin because you're an athlete.
Yep.
What position were you? Were you a striker or were you a goalie? What were you?
I was an outside midfielder
There you go.
who was scared to score goals. So I was like along the edge, just shooting balls in from the side, so my forwards could get them into the goal.
So when you played your rival, Oklahoma Sooners, did you beat them any out of your 4 years there?
We did. Yes, we were pretty good. Oklahoma State is a really good soccer team. We were sort of middle of the Big 12 at the beginning, but at the end, Really good.
Hey, listen, there's nothing like rivalries, and I
Yeah.
understand, Stillwater and, the Sooners and,
Yeah. Bedlam's a big deal.
you know,
Yeah.
I always think, out there, it's either football or wrestling,
Yes. Wrestling's a big, there's some
that's a big
amazing
thing. But,
wrestlers there.
you were a soccer player, so
Yeah.
I always ask, hey, were you defense? Were you, were you striker? What were you? And,
I was in the middle. I was running back and forth across the field.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, listen, when you were talking about, hey, I'm not an architect, guess what? I have publisher editor as my title, and my prep school English teacher, he laughs at me. He's like, Corson, oh my God, you're an editor? You couldn't even write a 5 paragraph essay when you were after Lord of the Flies, or you read,
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer, or all Othello. I read them all. And he's like,
Yeah.
God, you're an editor? You were the worst in English. I go, is he crazy? So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong. It's like building this house. People are like, what are you going to build a house for? You don't know how to do it. I'm like, no, I have a vision. I can read blue. I come from
Yeah.
a construction family. My family's
Well,
been in construction since 1888.
oh, I love that.
So, but we were in demolition and recycling. We were in sustainability before it was even a word. And I'm from Philadelphia originally. So all the grandsons, it's the way it was, nothing against the ladies out there, but old school family, if you got your license at 16, you had to go work in the
Yeah.
scrapyard or you weren't going to get your license. That's just the way it was. So I had to, go out and work for my Uncle Frank. He was my first superintendent. May he rest in may he rest in peace. But he was a mean SOB. If you were 2 seconds late there in the morning, you weren't ready to go with your acetylene torch. And then I had to go see my grandfather at the end of the day, but I shoveled asbestos, I laid railroad tracks, I did all sorts of stuff over the years. Now my cousins, they're my age and they're fifth generation, they're running the company still in business, but it molded me
Yeah.
who I was. And from an athlete point of view, believe me, it was hot. I was burning steel. And I don't know, I was probably making like $300 a week way back in the day. I thought I was a millionaire, and uh, but I learned so much there that it kind of molded me. And
Yeah.
I still have my erector set that I used to play with when I was younger. And on my mom, and I was on my mother's side. So on my dad's side, they were in furniture. So when I got out of school at University of Denver, I did my retail training at Levitt's. I put more of those little brass tables, those lost leaders in the back of the store. I scotch guarded sofas. I unloaded trucks. I did all that. And then when it came time for me to go down to live in Hickory, North Carolina at the plant, where they had one hotel and one restaurant, I was like, I don't know if furniture was my bag. And it was in the middle of the 80s. The interest rate was 18%, to build a house. And, buying a sofa was probably 4 or 5 items down on the necessity list. And I kind of just, went my way. I gave up the construction business. I did this, that, and I was kind of a community, I had an economics and a political science major. I was really a hockey lacrosse player. That's why I went out there. And a ski bum. I did the 5 year plan. I took a year
Yeah.
off and I worked on the mountain and
Yeah. Good for
bartending
you.
and I skied. So my coach wasn't too happy, but that's the way I did it. So, but once again, it molded me who I was.
Yeah.
And everything that I did, sports,
I
construction,
agree.
retail, uh,
Yeah.
it all kind of molded me, and I kind of found my niche in advertising, marketing. And what was crazy was timing in business is everything. When I
Right.
went, I was in food for at that time, and then when I moved to Atlanta, I was bored. Corporate was in Long Island, and they wanted me to stay up there. And I had just moved to Atlanta. I loved the South. It was cheap to live. Bunch of Yankees living down here as transplants. And I saw this ad in the paper for an advertising person. I had sales experience, but I had no advertising experience. So anyway, I go in. They had the owners of the company owned a furniture magazine, and they met me when I was like 3 years old in the showroom in New York at 32nd and Lex that my parents had. And the guy went on his archives in his bookcase, and he pulled a volume out, and he opened up and goes, "Is this your family, Corson and Son Industries, Furniture Industries?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's my dad and that's my uncle." And he's like, "Oh my God, I met you." So anyway, they hired me and they threw me on an automotive book. I didn't know what a headliner was or fiber or any of that stuff, but that's how my publishing career started.
That's amazing.
And
That's amazing.
yeah, so when you said, hey, I'm not an architect, I'm like, I don't care.
Well, I
Stop
say it
bothering
with a sense of pride, to be
me.
honest,
Yeah.
because I think, and I also say it with a sense of pride for Perkins and Will, because I think it shows that they're a place that find space for people who add value, no matter if you're an architect or not an architect, or bring a different perspective, if it adds value to the design experience. And I think it's really cool that they have people who are principals and have a leadership role in the firm, that's someone who focuses on psychology and the human experience. So I love that I'm not an architect in an architecture firm.
Hey, when you left Stillwater, right?
Yeah.
Did your parents say, don't go to the big city," or did they say, "You go, girl, just look at where you're from," right?
Funny enough, my mom is like a big Broadway person, so she was very excited to come and like watch Broadway musicals in New York. I think they were a little nervous, especially when they, dropped me off in some sort of Craigslist apartment that I lived in, and it was, the internet was barely out there, and I just kind of found an apartment with random people, but I think they were excited for me.
My son, he went to FAA mechanic school. He's an A&P, and he got hired by Delta. And his first day down there, he called me 3 hours later. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I just had a recruiter call me, and they want to pay me 5 times what from Boeing in Charleston, South Carolina." He goes, "And Boeing wants to hire me. They're going to pay me 5 times what Delta's going to pay me." And Delta was going to, they hired him at like peanuts. They wanted to prove
Yeah.
himself. And I said, "Well, what did your boss say?" And he said, "My boss said, get the hell out of here, go to Charleston, live at the beach." And I said, "Well, come on home." So he came home. We went online. He found a room, some local dude down there who was like a videographer, and he went to work there. And then he wanted to, after 3 years, I said, "Look, Boeing's been great. You got your license, blah, blah, blah. I think you should go and go do, go for something." So he came home and worked for in the local corporate airport for a mom and
Yeah.
pop. I knew he wasn't going to like it, but we took the tour of this place called FlexJet at Dallas Love Field.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah.
anyway, he's in Dallas right
Oh,
now
nice.
at Dallas Love. He's been down there for a year. His
Great
apartment,
place to be.
but he never lived away from home. And it's amazing when you see
Yeah.
your kids leave and how they mature. And he was a lacrosse player too. Listen, I thought he was going to follow my footsteps and go out there, but he wasn't into English or history, all that stuff. He wanted to work with his hands. So and but your story is so cool. Though, hey, I'm going to the Big Apple. I've never been there, and we were like, my wife's like, "No, don't go." And I'm like, "Yo, get out of the nest, fly, do whatever you want." And
It's a good time to do it when you're young and you're poor and everybody else is young and broke at the same time. You're living in 500 square feet of space with three roommates and you don't know any different. And I'm glad I did it. It was a really good experience for me. It really shaped who I am to go out there and work on big clients in a big city. And yeah, it was really good for me.
so 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 as we look back, now that we know your story,
Yeah.
you're a scorer. You're putting the curve on the ball from 35 yards out in the
Yeah.
top right corner of the net, and you're a cowboy. You bleed orange, and you go out, you play to win, and March 2020 comes, boom, everything goes kaput. It's
Sure.
going to be 3 weeks. It's going to be 3 months. Then now we're talking about, like I said earlier, 5 months later, 5 years later, we're still kind of talking
Sure.
about that. Talk about how Perkins and Will, and even yourself, how you
Sure.
weathered the storm per se, and what you learned that our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, will find of interest. And then we can discuss, any trends that you see out there as well, as a global, BD, marketing professional there at Perkins and Will.
Sure. First, for your listeners, I think there's three things that I think are really important that have come out of those 5 years. The first is that I think the emergence of the empowered consumer is really here to stay and has gotten even stronger. Before 2020, there was a lot of I want what I want, how I want it, when I want it. And now it's I want what I want it, when I want it, how I want it. And I don't want to drive three places to get it. I only want to drive one place to get it. I want it to be a mixed use experience. And I want it to be an urban mixed use experience, even if I'm living in a suburban lifestyle. So we're seeing more and more of that urban mixed use popping up in not even primary suburban centers, but secondary suburban centers, things that used to be, um, you would see just in your sort of first ring outside of major cities. You're seeing it in your second ring, your third ring, and you're seeing medical as part of it. You're seeing education as part of it, where before you would see, oh, it's retail mixed use together. We're going to see retail, fitness, maybe a hotel together. We're seeing more and more of a demand from our consumers saying, I don't want to drive four places anymore. I want to drive one place and I want it all together. So I think that is one of the bigger shifts we are seeing. Um, the other big shift I think we're seeing is as architects, we need to be designing for flexibility. This year we're going to see over 70,000 apartments that are shifting from office. So as we design for the future, we need to be designing for flexible spaces because we don't know what the uses may shift to in the future. So as we design for residential, for hotels, for healthcare, for retail, we need to be designing for potentially like prefab, more digital, more potential shifts in the future so that we're not looking at such a heavy investment to make these shifts down the road and heavy investments both in terms of sustainability and waste as we're having right now. And I think the third thing is that well-being is table stakes. I think that people's expectations, as we talked about empowered consumers and empowered users, we are designing spaces that need to optimize well-being, both from emotional health, social health, sleep health. As we think about how we're designing spaces, people's expectations are when I come into my workplace, it needs to be a place that is optimizing my overall health. And if it's not, I don't want to work there. I don't want to live there. I don't want to stay there. I don't want to spend any time there, even if it's my coffee shop. Like well-being should be just a baseline of how my spaces are designed. So for me, those are my top three big takeaways from the past 5 years.
You know, listen, Amazon, you don't have to go anywhere. You can get everything delivered to your house. That
Right.
even
So if I'm going to leave my house, it has to be worth it.
that was exactly what I was going to say. You can,
Yeah.
if you're, it's just like technology with
Yeah.
like here we're on Zoom. I had Zoom before the shutdown happened,
Yeah.
the roller coaster started. But now, let's say you have to go out and you've got a project and you got to drive 2 hours to go look at a roof curb up on a roof. When you can not use technology, you can pick and choose what's really important. And if you've got to go do an in-face gig, you can do it because you get technology here to get it done. And I know people, in the beginning they're like, "Oh, I'm so burned out. I'm on the web," but now this is the way it is. And technology right now, especially with AI coming into play, it's at warp speed. Something that is happening today, 6 months from now, it'll be
Yeah.
outdated. Just like construction and design, you won't even recognize what stores are. And being a female, I'll give you, uh, when I started my company, in my own publishing company, I had a female construction person come up to me at my show, and they said, "How come you don't have more ladies on the cover?" And I said, "I don't know." So you know what I did? I went home and I looked at my circulation file. I'm like, heck, it's like 70-30. Okay, I'll put some more women on it. And then gradually it went 60-40. Now it's like 50-50. There might even be more women in construction than there are men. The other thing that I thought was, hey, I don't like shopping. I'm a guy. I'm being honest. Come on, guys. You know how it is. But I never understood why men are designing women, because they know what they want their dressing rooms to be. They know how they want their fixture and their aisles are going to be. And so I never kind of thought about that concept until this contractor came up, this female contractor, and said, "Hey, why don't you do?" And it just made me think. And it's amazing how the construction industry is kind of transformed into that. Uh, as the, I've been around 25 years. Let's see, I started my 99 is when I started my magazine. And then Nielsen, I was with Nielsen. And right after 9/11, they bought our company. That honeymoon lasted about 18 months. And then they started selling some magazine. Right after 9/11, they whacked about 50 or 60 magazines. And my little construction book got the axe. I had to lay off my staff. Never, ever day after. It was like right at Thanksgiving. It was like the worst time. It really eked me, on corporate America. And so I went up and I offered to buy the magazine. And the year I started my magazine in 90, my son was born. So I looked at my magazine as my kid, and I had to stand up for it. So I
Yeah.
said, "Hey, I'm going to Texas. I was going to call on Radio Shack at the time. So I'm going down to Dallas for the week. I'm calling on Radio Shack, seeing some vendors, blah blah blah. And when I come back, you have to make a decision." And I came back. I said, "Are you going to sell me the magazine?" And they said no. And I said, "Here's my resignation." And the president was like, "David, we love you. You could retire here. We love you. Where are you going?" I'm like, "Mike, my passion is in construction, and I was doing a POP magazine, point of purchase. It wasn't really my thought process. I was in construction, and I said, I'm just going to go do it. I know how I want to run it, and it was a bean counter decision, and everybody told me not to do it. My parents, you've got a expense account, travel budget, blah blah blah, and I just rolled the dice. And you never know. I mean, it was a funny time there, right after 9/11, and but here I am 25 years later, and when I look at the transformation, just from a female perspective, everything that you said, you know, I don't want to do this. I want this, this, and this. And the most amazing thing is like the bridge between residential and commercial and healthcare with hospitality. Healthcare facilities almost look like hotels,
Yeah.
except you've got
Yeah.
infection
There's
control.
such a blur right now.
Yeah, everybody's learning from one another,
Right.
and and then you've got the female, male, and listen, men are wired differently than women. It's just the reality of it. But if you can mesh it and get everybody's input and the vision, and everybody's on the same page, just like a soccer team. You get videotape of your competitors. You know who's the scorer, who the defense guys, what the goalie's tendencies are. You know all that going into the game, and then you got to execute it. And hopefully, if you do it, it always comes down to a couple of plays if you win or lose. I mean, many soccer games are not, 15 nothing unless you're, playing a, D1 against a D3 score or something like that. So they're normally very close. So it always comes down to a couple of plays here and there that determines what the outcome's going to be. So everything you said was so true because right now I watched, yeah, I've been in Atlanta since so I went to the Olympics. I saw everything get built there. Then when I started, Home Depot was doing 140 stores a year. Now, they're doing X amount, they're renovating, and I've seen retail, hotels, the whole commercial sector, and our sweet spots, retail, restaurant, hospitality. But we go to cannabis, craft brew. I put a residential section in the, while we were building the house, and now I'm like, I'm going to break it off into something else. But it's amazing the blur. That word is a really good word to use because everybody's learning about, hey, what do I see 5 years down the road, or what things are going to look like. That's why I say it's an amazing time to be alive, because there's so many people that have visions of what the future is going to look like. And I don't know if Perkins will, but you have that same outlook because you just stated it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the future is going to be a blur of uses. Like I do think, we've already seen it in the past where retail and restaurants have come together, hotels and restaurants and retail are all one experience. I think we're starting to see them all merge together. I don't know that they're going to totally, all the lines are going to be
Oh
gone,
no,
but
no. Yeah.
I think that we are going to continue to see those lines get blurred and blurred and blurred.
Did during the roller coaster, were you like a hybrid where people would come into the office once things settled down, or
Yeah, so we we worked from home and then we continued to we I don't know, I worked from home for a while. I was in Chicago at the time and we were pretty shut down. We were pretty shut down and then The interesting thing for me for 2020 was that I made the decision to go back to school. It really something that I'd put off for a really long time and decided it was just no time like the present. I had the extra time where I was really grateful for the opportunity and the extra time. I couldn't have done it at any other time in my career because I'd been traveling so much. So it put my life on a little bit of pause. So I was able to work from home and then go to a hybrid program to get my master's degree. So yeah, I worked from home and then went to school at night on the weekends. It was really an incredible break for me.
As we're basically halfway through 2025. So I
Yeah,
kind of look at it, it's halftime in a game. You got the second half is waiting for us, two quarters, whatever, and
sure.
it's the second half. Uh, as you look forward, what trends do you see out there, other than the blur and, that we've already discussed, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think obviously we've touched on technology and AI. I think we're going to continue to see the automation of things. I think we're going to continue to see the digital twins of buildings. So we're going to be able to continue to be able to learn more and more about how our buildings function and operate, which is going to help us to be able to optimize how our buildings are and have healthier buildings and have more functional buildings for the people. I do also think I'm not a believer that AI is going to take all of our jobs. I do think people who know how to use AI are going to take all of our jobs. If you don't know how to use AI, I think you should start learning. I think you should be AI literate, and I think it will be helpful for you. So if you're not one of those people who understand AI, I encourage you to start learning how to use AI. I think you'll be amazed at how it can help you even in small ways in your role, even if you're nervous about it. I think starting just to learn how to use it as a note taker or how to use it as someone who like an AI, someone who could just like give you an outline or things like that. Just start with like little ways for AI to help you. I think it will be amazing for you to start to learn how it could help you in your day-to-day life. That being said, I think the future is better understanding people because that cannot be replaced by AI. I think that human to human connection is going to be even more important in the future of the built environment. I think that's something that cannot be replaced. I think people are going to miss and want that human connection. So I think that we're going to see, it's interesting. We're working on a children's hospital, and I would say 5 years ago, we would have put so many more digital activations in it. And what we're seeing right now is no digital activations. People want less digital and they want more physical things because they want less screens, less stuff. So for me, I think the future may be more tangible, more human, less screens in spaces. So more seamless integration and less like physical tech of things. That's one of the bigger things I think that we're seeing. So seamless versus tactile. Um, Basically, because what's happening is when you see the physical tech, a lot of the times it's not working, and people think, oh, it's an eyesore. And if it's not fast, it's broken. And then I have a poor impression of this brand when I'm here. So I think that's one of the bigger things, like the increase in human touch over tech, the increase in seamlessness, the increase in use of AI, and people understanding how to use AI.
The I did the same thing that you did. I went back to school.
Oh, awesome.
I went digital. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't. So I got Google and Microsoft certified. I learned
Awesome.
SEO. I learned Google, TikTok. I learned all that stuff. The reason being is because I wanted a digital agency. I'm kind of a weird guy here because I'm a publisher. I have a magazine, but I also wanted to have an agency because a lot of agencies don't offer it. And I just kind of I thought I knew everything, but I didn't. I learned a lot. and it was it was an amazing thing. 'Cause I was like almost like taking a sabbatical. My magazine been around a while. I still controlled it, but I went on class. I did a lot of. I got in a couple mastermind groups of people that were on the web well before like MySpace and all the stuff. These guys were just visionaries, and just learning from them what they went through and what was coming. It was an amazing thing going back to school, and it wasn't even school. It was fun. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna join this. I'm gonna join this group of these two dudes, and they're like heroes out there. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, trust me on this. And but it was I've learned so much that and not all of it I use. Don't get me wrong, but it was really really cool to do. I mean, I just turned 62. Yeah, and they always say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and my son, he doesn't know what a magazine was. He's got his watch, he's a tablet, he's not looking at a magazine, so I had to go digital. When I went digital, it was scary because I was like, oh my God, I'm a print face to face guy. What am I going to do with this? But I had a digital magazine forever, and I had all
Yeah.
the content, and I didn't even know what to do with it. So I was like, okay, I got to go back, and I got to find some people that can teach me what I really need to know and dive deep into the weeds and kind of see it. And best decision I ever made.
That's awesome.
But you talking about what's your favorite project? Do you think that your firm did that you're like really proud of?
Oh gosh, that's a great question,
I mean,
David.
you
I
guys have
mean,
done a ton of stuff. So, but I'm just thinking, once
we we have. We're right
I
now.
built that or I designed that.
Um, right now we are working on the largest ground up pediatric campus in the United States. So it's just really meaningful work. It's here in Dallas. And so we've been able to speak with children and families and staff and child life specialists and all the teams that are going to be working in this new campus. And it's just really incredible to hear the impact that this campus will have, not only on the region, but also the research that's going to impact the United States and potentially the world that will happen in this place. So it's not built yet. It won't be done, I think, until 2031. So it's got a long time to go. But for me, the most interesting part of any project is the research that happens up front. So just an interesting anecdote, when I was working in a brand agency in New York, when we were working on a client that creates childcare medicine and toothpaste and those sorts of brands, we would spend 2 to 3 years researching before we launched a new flavor of toothpaste. Do you like mint toothpaste? Do you like vanilla toothpaste? But when I came over to the architecture world, you would design $1 billion project before talking to anybody who might use or spend time in that project. I mean, you were just talking a minute ago about, well, we couldn't have men design these dressing rooms. Well, of course you can if you have the men do the research and talk to the women about what they might want in this dressing room, or if you're designing dressing rooms for children, or if you're designing dressing rooms for someone in another country, of course you can if you sit down and spend time talking to the user. But so often in this industry, we just skip that step. And a lot of times it's because of budgets and timing. But my my passion for this architecture and construction world is spending time talking to our user. Do we really understand who we're designing for? So the beauty and the reason that I'm so passionate about this project that we're working on is we have really spent a lot of time talking to our user, our patients, our family members, our nurses, and our staff to say, how might we make this children's hospital experience better for everyone? What does it look like in the waiting room that could make you feel safer or could keep your siblings entertained? I mean, people always forget that when the patient families come in, there's some brothers and sisters that are going to have to spend a couple hours there and maybe missing school while their sibling is in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So that's what I'm really passionate about is really understanding who we're designing for. So when you ask me about my favorite projects, it's potentially less because it's a beautifully designed building, but more because we really understood the people that we designed it for and spent a lot of time talking to them and understanding them at the very beginning.
Hey, it all goes back to sports. Hey, I'm a soccer player. I want to be faster. I want to be able to stop on a dime, but I don't want to blow my knees out. I need a new pair of cleats. If you're going to design a new pair of cleats, you need to do this, and it's on that.
It's
I,
product design. I mean, product designers spend a lot of time understanding. I mean, that's why I'm trying to bring experience design principles to the architectural realm. Product designers, UX designers spend so much time understanding their users. And in the architectural world, we just don't spend as much time in that stage, and we should.
I totally agree. Listen, Arthur Blank, one of the founders of Home Depot here in Atlanta, he just finished building the children's healthcare north of downtown. I watched that building go up as I would go down to the airport, and and they still have a couple of wings that they're doing, but it's a massive facility. It took
Yeah.
years and years to build, and I don't know if they talk to the people that are working in there, but I think that's just an awesome thing to go through the research part of it
Yeah.
before you go out and throw it out there and very, very insightful. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds that's an awesome way to think, in my opinion. So, um, the if someone wanted to bounce some questions off you and reach out to you, and they were, maybe they're doing a restaurant, or maybe they're
Yeah.
doing, a healthcare facility somewhere in the States or so forth, and they just kind of wanted to get your input or, your firm's input, how would someone reach out to you?
I think LinkedIn is probably the best possible way.
Okay.
Just Sarah Wicker, search Sarah Wicker, Wicker like a basket on LinkedIn.
Hey, LinkedIn is the best place I think you want to be, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And
Yeah, it's easy to find me.
yeah, and so I'll put your LinkedIn profile in the
Sure.
description, and so if you're out there in commercial construction coffee talk land and you're thinking about, hey, how do I conduct that research or so forth, reach out to Sarah and her team.
Sure.
They can give you some insights from what they've learned, and hopefully they can help you with a new build or a renovation or anything
Yeah.
like that. So if there was one positive thought or phrase as we finish up that you would like to leave with our audience out there on the Wild Wild Web, what would it be?
Can I cheat and give you three?
Yeah, no, hey, take three, go for it.
Well, I've kind of been talking in threes the whole time. And it's funny because David, you and I have echoed the same insights throughout this podcast. But the first one is everything is figure outable. As we've pivoted throughout our careers, I think we've both thought we can go this direction. Everything is figure outable. We will navigate this. If I'm going to pivot from a brand agency to an architecture firm to a psychology degree, you can figure it out. The other one is just never stop learning. I think if you never stop learning, you're always going to be inspired. You're always going to, I think, have that sort of insight for what you're doing, and you're always going to be valuable. I feel like if you just have that sort of drive to keep learning about the industry that you're in and what you're doing, I think that will keep you inspired. And then the last one, which you echoed this a minute ago, is surround yourself with people who know more than you do, who are smart and brilliant about different things that you may not know more about. I try to hire really smart, really interesting, really creative people who are always teaching me things.
Hey, the day that I stop learning is the day I should go do something else. And if you're not making
Exactly.
mistakes, you're not going to learn. It's just,
Exactly.
yeah. So hey, figure outable, learn, and surround yourself with positive people. I mean,
Exactly.
hey,
Exactly.
I love the trio. That was awesome. I never
Kind
had
of,
that.
they're
Hey,
all
can I
kind
have
of building
three?
off each other.
Yeah, you can take two. Oh, no, take three. No, that was great. I love it. I love it. Hey, as we finish up here, couple of things. Number one, if you're out there on the construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to be able to get home, have dinner with your family, your friends, your pets, laugh, catch some tube, get some REM sleep, and be able to do it the next day. The athlete need number two, stay liquefied. It's hot, sizzling hot here in the ATL. Humid, it's the dog days of summer. There you go. Hey, put some electrolytes in there. You got to listen, as an athlete, if you get dehydrated, you make a bad pass. You don't catch the ball. You get headaches. You don't feel good. And that night you don't go to sleep. And the next day it's just not that positive an experience. You stay liquefied, just like on the construction site. Hey, you're going to have a better day. You're going to sleep better. And I'm just telling you, it works. So liquefying your body all day with a little electrolytes, whatever you're going to drink, so important on in the construction as on the athletic field, whatever you do. Liquefaction is just crucial to your success, in my opinion. And last but not least, hit the like button so we can get this YouTube algorithm out there and hear Sarah's story, from Sooner, from Cowboy soccer player, Orange, to the Big Apple, to Chicago, Chi-Town, the Windy City. Now she's in Big D, down there in Dallas. So with that, any final words as we say goodbye to our listeners out there, Sarah, from Big D?
No, just thank you. Thank you for having me, David. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And listen, I always learn something. And the big three you just said were awesome. Hey, I'm going to sign off from Lake Lanier, just north of downtown, about 25 miles up to 600. We have 600 miles of coastline up here. It covers 6 counties. It's an amazing thing that they built, the Beaufort Dam, and they backed up the Chattahoochee. But that's where I'm going to sign off from. And listen, it's really the first week of Q3. Last week was a holiday week, but the second half of the year is running. So listen, everybody, stay positive, put your blinders on, keep moving forward. Before you know it's going to be the holidays and we're going to be ringing in 2026. As I said, it's an amazing time to be alive. Sarah, if I come down to Dallas, I'm going to look you up and
Yeah, I love that.
I'd love to go see the project, whatever phase it's in, and
Yeah.
see some renderings and so forth. And with that said, say goodbye from Dallas.
Bye from Dallas.
And I'm signing off here from Lake Lanier, and we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Sarah, pleasure to meet you. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. All right.
Thank you, David.
Cheers, everybody.